Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to show you guys my going first gem fairy list. This year has been pretty shit so far for Gem Knights. We had 4 Proto YCSs and the UK Open, and not a single Gem Knight player was able to get into top 8 at any of these events. And here's my hot take. It's because every single Gem Knight list I've seen so far tries to blind second. I mean, blinding second could work, it could be a viable approach, but the problem is the format is way too diverse. Check out the top 8, for example, at the UK Open. We got 8 different decks. And even if you spend all of your 100 points on non-engine, it's pretty much impossible to perfectly cover all of these different matchups, especially with the limited resources you are giving in Genesys. So that made me think, why should I give up the huge advantage of going first? A better approach, in my opinion, is balancing out the deck. This list uses a lot of the tools that Gem Knight has for going second, but it can also build 6, 7, 8, 9 disruptions going first. For the main deck, we got triple Candina, Aqua Angel, and triple Light Stage. Candina and Light Stage are kind of like your starters, I guess. All they do going first is a 1-card Dugaris for the discard and the draw 2, and then on top of that, they put Light Fairy in the grave forever. And then Aqua Angel is technically a brick, but drawing her is also kind of nice sometimes, because she can be a free discard for your Heralds, for Droplet or for Neffy, and then when she's in the grave, she's an extender. And one more thing, I originally introduced the Trickstars into the deck as strong normal summons for going first, but going second, these cards actually perform way better than I first anticipated, especially the Light Stage. Forcing out opponent's back row is super clutch. In Genesys generally, good back row removal like Heavy Storm, Lightning Storm, Feather Duster is pointed very high, so having like a back row removal card that forces back row and goes plus in the process feels very strong. Now for the Gem Knight starters, we got triple Neffy, really the soul of this deck. This card does everything you ever wanted and more. She's a starter. When you discard or foolish her, then she becomes your best extender. She's a discard outlet and a Light Fairy on top of that. Then we got triple Gem Knight Dispersion. This is the Gem Knight Rotor, but with a little bit of setup, this can also be a branded fusion type card. It's a good starter, but an even better extender. Alright, I think it's about time that we start spending big. 33 points, a third of our points are going to Brilliant Fusion. This is a god card going first, literally does cold fusion. If you don't get shifted or foovered, this card might as well say you win the game. It is searchable, but only going second by Gem Knight Quartz, except when you get hit by Nip, then you can punish your opponent for foolishly dropping the rock on you. While not mandatory, I think it's optimal to spend 33 points on Brilliant Fusion right now, but if any of the other cards in this deck get a point increase, you could consider replacing Brilliant Fusion with Scatter Fusion. Scatter Fusion is a 0-point alternative, but instead of being a god card going first, it's pretty much the worst brick. For our last starter, we got triple Wingle's Blessing. It's the second best Gem Knight starter in this deck after Brilliant Fusion in my opinion, because it doesn't take your normal summon, and whenever we already have Neffy access, we use this to dump Eva and get a double Herald Surge. The card is really sick. It either gets you into your place, or you get 2 disruptions from it. These 10 cards and the 6 Trickster cards, I would consider them starters. That's 16 starters in total, which gives me an about 90% chance of seeing at least one. Next we got double Quartz. This card is insane going second because it sets Brilliant Fusion from the deck, so I'm maining 2 and siding the third for going second. But going first, this is probably the worst Gem Knight card to draw. You could get away with playing 1, but then you have less follow-up and also a slightly lower ceiling because I use one of them when I fuse into Diamond Dispersion, and then I search the second one with Neffy on my opponent's turn to get an extra fairy pitch for the Heralds. So playing 2 raises your ceiling a bit, gives you better grind game, and of course it's an insane card going second. Then we got 1 Armadillo and 1 Hollow Core. In the blind second Gem Knight builds, you play multiple of these, but here they are not starters going first. They are really good draws alongside your 10 Gem Knight starters, but if you don't have Neffy access, they do dog shit nothing, so they are perfect where they are, at 1. Lastly, of course, the 1 OG Gem Knight Fusion. Love the Shatterfoil. It's an engine requirement, sometimes even a clutch draw if you have Dispersion or access to Dispersion, but most of the time it's just a free discard that comes back again and again. Talking about free discards, Dugaris, Neffy, Orange Light, Green Light, Spoiler Fire Attacker, Droplet. We need a ton of good discards in this deck, so the next cards, they're all gonna give you different disruptions when they get discarded. Alright, let's start with Eva. This card comes at a cost of 1 point and is your highest value discard. It needs a bit of setup, but once you get 2 Light Fairies in the grave, this card is a double interruption. You can dump Eva with Wingle's Blessing and get a double Herald Search, and then when you have a second Eva in hand, you can of course use that to pay the cost for a Herald and search 2 more Heralds. So one of the best case scenarios for going first is double Eva into 4 disruption. Then we got triple Dark Lord Gulgulet. This dude, when discarded, searches you forbidden quick play spells. So he searches you high-pointed non-engine like droplets or even Forbidden Crown for going first. And I love how these two complement each other because Gulgulet doesn't need setup. So you want to discard him at the beginning of the combo for Dugaris or Neffy, but later on the opponent's turn, he doesn't give you any disruption. Eva is the opposite. Highest value when discarded late in the combo or the opponent's turn and lower value when you pitch her for Dugaris. Then we also play two Shufflers. Keldo is great because he doesn't care when he's discarded, he always gives you value, but Konami, what the hell, Shifter is still 10 points, and against any Shifter deck, Keldo does dog shit nothing, and that's why I didn't feel comfortable playing more than two Shufflers in the main, even though Shufflers are crazy strong into lots of matchups. Also Keldo over Mudora, because going first, Keldo can pitch Quartz, then search itself and make Dugaris. That's all there is to it. Orange Light is Fairy trump card. The biggest edge fairies have, like impactful generic hand traps are super expensive in Genesys, like a playset of Gamma 60 points, a playset of Ash or Impulse or Droll, all 60 points. Meanwhile, Orange Light just chills at 0 points. This card beats Shifter and the Shamis and Nip, any hand trap going first, and with all the good discards, it's usually not even a -1. But by far the best thing about Orange Light is if you lose the die roll, this deck sometimes just ridiculously high rolls your opponent. Just completely screws them over, because when you open Orange Light plus Ever, you pitch Ever, search a second orange, then pitch Gulgulet to search Droplet or pitch Neffy to go +1. Some hands are so ridiculously high roll, and then my opponent usually thinks, alright, I got sacked game 1, my opponent is playing blind second Gem Knight, and I'm gonna make him go first. I mean, what's Gem Knight really gonna do going first? And then game 2 you sack them even harder by building a 7 disruption board. Happened to me more than once already. Yeah, call me an orange simp. Green Light is pretty good too, like removal spells like Illusion Gate, Twin Twister, even Heavy Storm are I think rising in popularity, and Green Light just makes you feel cozy and safe, not worrying about 25 euro Illusion Gates at all. Lastly, we are spending big on the forbidden quick play spells, 2 droplets, that's 20 points. It's a discard outlet and one of the best cards going second period. Also amazing going first. It lets you trigger Aquamarine on the opponent's turn for an extra bounce. We can also send Wingle's Blessing to trigger the Reborn effect and get an extra Neffy search on the opponent's turn, or even revive Ever. There's a bunch of cute hidden synergies. Then we also spend 10 points to play 1 Forbidden Crown. Crown is what we usually search off Gulgulet going first, except we need the discard from Droplet, and while kinda mid going second, this card just fucks going first. It's probably with Orange Light and Holocore the best interruption that we have. It negates an opponent's monster and freezes it. That's better than, let's say, Solemn striking a monster that's on the field, because Strike destroys the monster, and then they can either revive it or maybe use its Grave effect, but with Crown you just take an opponent's monster completely out of the equation. On top of that, if the opponent uses back row removal on Crown, you can just use it as protection on either Dagosto Emerald, Fairy Cheergall, or even a Gem Knight Fusion monster. The biggest downside is probably just the price that's attached to it. So if you play on a budget, you 100% just can replace this with Chalice. Chalice is 30 euros and 5 Genesys points cheaper and better going second. So if you can afford it, I 100% would recommend playing Crown over Chalice, but Chalice is a decent option too. The last card we play is the Full Armored Xyz Trap. This card, best case scenario, is 2 disruption in 1, cause it gives you the Dark Knight Lancer suck and a rank 6 play on the opponent's turn. That's it for the main, so let's check out the extra. For the Xyz we play the most important one, Dugaris, part of literally every going first combo in this deck. Going second, we also make him a lot. We can use him to double the attack of Gem Knight Ruby to get a 10,000 attack piercing dude. Then we play 1 Emerald for 1 point and 1 Fairy Cheergirl. These two are usually what we summon after making Dugaris to get a 3rd draw. Fairy Cheergirl is a bit better than Emerald, but you can't make her with Armadillo. So Emerald actually ends up being the one that we make a bit more often, I think. Then for the rank 4 toolbox options, we only play Tornado Dragon and Exit Knight. Tornado Dragon is great going first and second. We can even use him as a combo piece, cause you can pop Wingle's Blessing to get the Reborn effect off. Just a great card all around. Exiton might be the card we summon the least in the whole extra deck, borderline cuttable, maybe, I don't know, but whenever we get to resolve him, he is very high impact. Then we play 1 F0. This is our plan B for whenever we draw the Xyz Armor Trap. Then instead of going for Lancer, we make F0. Often I also side out the Xyz Armor Trap because I assume that I will go second, but then my opponent sometimes makes me go first and I have F0 as plan B. Then we got the Xyz Armor package. Just slap them on top of Dugaris and get 1, often even 2 free disruption, 1 suck from the full armored Dark Knight Lancer and 1 rank 6 play on the opponent's turn into Photon Strike Bouncer. This is a tech I discovered pretty late, but ever since I make Strike Bouncer in like half of my games going first. Then for the Gem Knight fusions I play 6 in total, which is the minimum amount I would recommend playing. First the OGs. Prismora, he pops a face up once per turn. Aquamarine bounces when he gets sent from field to grave. You can trigger him with Droplet on the opponent's turn, but usually you tribute him for Ruby. Ruby tribute a Gem Knight and he becomes huge. With Dugaris he can get over 10k, also he pierces. Aquamarine and Ruby are both level 6, so we can use them to make Photon Strike Bouncer on the opponent's turn, and that's it for the OGs. I don't play Topaz. In order to make Gem Knights viable for going first, I had to make some sacrifices, and Topaz honestly seemed the weakest to me out of the OGs. Then we play, of course, the man himself, Diamond Dispersion. He's the dude that cheats out all the other dudes. Then for the last two, we got a Seraphinite. Seraphinite needs any light monster. So we can, for example, just use Eva as fusion material. That also means she's a good Brilliant fusion target. I mean, anybody who knows, who played Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2016 knows that she's the OG Brilliant fusion target. Dump any light, dump snow. In this deck we dump Eva to get a double Herald Surge, and then she also gives you a second normal summon, so you can go Kandina into Kandina, for example, because the Trickster cards are all not once per turn. The last fusion we play is Lady Rose Diamond. She is the most generic out of all the Gem Knights fusion because she just needs a Gem Knight and a Fairy, so by fusing into her you get to trigger Eva and Gulgulet or get Keldo into the grave, and her effects are just alright. I guess sometimes she's a pop and she protects your Gem Knights fusions on the opponent's turn, but mostly she is just there to help you trigger other fairies. When talking about the side deck, I should probably first address the elephant in the room. These 8 cards are insane going first, but going second it's a whole different story. Going second you are probably not going to resolve Dugaris into a board. Same with Neffy. She doesn't discard for cost, so going second you basically only have the Heralds and Droplet as reliable discard outlets. Which means on the flip side, these cards are either insanely good because you open them with a Herald together, or hot trash. I still think it's optimal to play the deck like this, because you have a 50% chance to win the die roll, and then these cards are great obviously, but even if you lose the die roll, you have another 50% chance of opening a Herald, and then these cards are really good too. So now, to increase our odds of drawing a discard outlet going second, I'm spending 15 more points on siding the Rescue Ace package. I mean, Fire Attacker is basically Dugaris for going second. Cards I usually like to side out for the Rescue Ace package are the Xyz Armor Trap, Crown, and then the Shufflers depending on how good they are into a certain matchup. And we also side out at least one Light Stage and one Kandina too, because going second you have additional starters in Quartz, and with the Rescue Ace package we don't want to draw into multiple Trickster cards. I also like to side a third Quartz. It's probably one of your best engine cards for going second, and he goes in against any deck I play against. And then for decks like Odeon, Eldritch, or generally decks that have powerful trap cards as part of their engine, I also like to side 1 or 2 copies of Purple Light. It's searchable by Eva, so really strong. And for going first, you could also consider a copy of Trickster Reincarnation. This card is really good. First of all, if you draw multiple Trickster cards, then you can search it, and it also generates follow-up, but in Genesys you can also banish like highly pointed cards. For example, a Holy Sue is pointed, so Vanquish Soul often only plays 1 copy. If you banish that Holy Sue, you are in a really good position. Same goes with all the decks that play 7's Ascension right now. If these decks go -1 to grab like a really valuable card, you can just Trickster Reincarnation it away. This now leaves me with 7 to 8 more side deck slots and also 6 more points to spend. You probably want to have some amount of back row removal on top of your light stages, because your light stages cannot outface up cards like Dimensional Fissure or Macrocosmo. So you could play a Heavy Storm for the leftover 6 points or MST. And then I usually play some hand traps to cover niche matchups like Lancia for Monarchs and Goldie, Vados for Odeon, Vanquish Soul, and maybe Archmage. For 6 points you could also play a playset of Meowls. This is one of the best cards going second for beating Magnets, and they also hit some more niche decks like Goatee or anything that plays the Verna Sylph cards really. Now let me show you how this deck can make up to 10 disruptions going first. This is a powerful hand, almost perfect I would say. The only thing that's missing is maybe an orange light to beat cards like Fuva or Shifter, but for the sake of creating maximum disruptions, let's go with this. We start with Light Stage into Kandina. We grab another Light Stage just to thin out the deck a bit. Then we go for Dugaris, draw 2, discard Neffy to trigger her and pitch Gulgulet. Gulgulet here is going to grab us Forbidden Crown, and Neffy searches a second Dispersion, which then allows us to grab Armadillo. Next we go Neffy effect to get an extra normal for the Armadillo, which gives us Hollow Core access. Now, since Dugaris has no material, we can go through the full Armored Xyz line. Next we do something a little bit strange. We make Tornado Dragon and pop our own Light Stage. This does 2 things. We now have a Tornado Dragon that can either be Disruption or Follow Up if we decide to pop Wingle's Blessing later. But more importantly, by popping Light Stage we now have 2 Light Fairies in the grave for the Eva that we're gonna send off Wingle's Blessing. After grabbing 2 Heralds, we finally special Holocore, then use Dispersion to make Diamond Dispersion. At this point we also trigger Quartz to get Neffy back into our grip, and then we summon a bunch of cool looking Gem Knights from the extra. You could special summon Lady Rose over Prismora to get extra protection, but since we got access to multiple Heralds already, I'm not worried about Illusion Gate, and Lady Diamond is just good to have in the extra for follow-up plays. Lastly, we set the back row, and don't forget to recycle Gem Knight Fusion. It's a free Neffy discard on the opponent's turn. And yeah, that's our board. It looks a little bit unassuming, but it's actually 10 disruptions. So first, in our opponent's draw phase, we're gonna use the Armored Xyz Trap to summon Photon Strike Bouncer. Now we have a Bouncer Negate, a Dark Knight Lancer Suck, a Tornado Dragon Pop, and a Crown. So 4 disruptions are on the field right now. In our hand, we have 4 Heralds, because the first Herald is going to discard Ever, which then grabs us 2 more Heralds, and we have enough discard fodder to trigger all 4 of them. Because we can pitch Keldo for the second Herald, pitch Neffy for the third Herald, and then pitch Gem Knight Fusion for Neffy effect to search Quartz. So we would have a force discard if we ever needed to use all 4 Heralds. Then on top of that, we have a Shuffler and Holocore, which is an Omni Negate coming from the grave. So 4 disruptions on the field, 4 Heralds in hand, and then these 2 disruptions in the grave. That's 10 in total. And yeah, this is pretty much the maximum amount of disruptions you can get without using Brilliant Fusion. And I mean, this is totally overkill. Realistically, with a strong hand, you will get 7 or 8 disruptions. Average hands will probably have 5 to 6 disruptions. And bad hands are either bricks or you have 4 or less disruptions.